I want to share something with you that happened to me. And I'm not telling you this uh, because it's impressive or to brag on myself. You all know that I love to do that. That's not what this is, I promise. I want to do it because when I say it out loud, it almost sounds insane. 2 years ago, I ran a half marathon, 13.1 miles, the furthest I had ever run in my life, ever. And I was proud of it, genuinely proud, the kind of proud that feels earned because it was. I trained for it, I showed up, I finished. And for a few hours that day, I felt good about what I had done. Later that same day, I opened Strava and I saw someone else's recent run. And just like that, the half marathon didn't feel like enough anymore. I want you to sit with that for a second. The furthest I had ever run in my whole life, and by the end of the same day, someone else's number on an app quietly took it from me. I let it. And the crazy part, the part that really makes it insane, that person that I saw had no idea. They weren't competing with me. They weren't trying to make me feel small. They just went for a run. I did that to myself. And if you're sitting there thinking, that sounds extreme, fine. But I want to ask you something. When is the last time you bought something and you felt good about it until you saw what someone else had? Or when's the last time you got a promotion and you celebrated it until you found out what someone else's salary was? When's the last time you were proud of your house until you pulled into someone else's driveway? Or the last time your kid did something incredible and you were genuinely amazed by them until you heard what someone else's kid was doing? Or you posted a vacation photo and felt happy about it until you saw where someone else went. I'm not describing weak people. I'm not describing insecure people. I'm describing humans. This is what we do, all of us, constantly, most of the time without even realizing it. We're wired for comparison. It's built into us at a level that goes deeper than habit, deeper than mindset. It's biological. For most of human history, knowing where you stood relative to the people around you was survival information. Are you strong enough? Are you fast enough? Do you have enough? Are you keeping up? That wiring kept us alive. The problem is the environment changed and the wiring didn't. Because now we're not comparing ourselves to a handful of people in our immediate community. We're comparing ourselves to millions of people simultaneously every single day before we even get out of bed. You wake up, you pick up your phone, and before you've had a single thought of your own, you've already seen 17 people's highlight reels. The vacation you can't afford right now, the body someone else worked hard to build, the car sitting in someone else's driveway, the relationship that looks perfect from the outside, the business that appears to be thriving, the family that seems to have it all figured out. And your brain, your ancient survival wired brain, is processing all of it as these are people in your tribe, people you're supposed to be keeping up with. But you're not seeing their life. You're seeing the version they chose to show you. You're seeing the vacation photo, but not the credit card bill. You're seeing the highlight reel, not the blooper reel that never gets posted. Unless you follow Abby, she definitely will post bloopers of herself because she is free. What you are seeing is the result, not the decade of work, sacrifice, failure, and starting over that produced it. And you're measuring your whole unedited life against someone else's greatest hits. And that math is never going to work out in your favor. It can't. The information is completely one-sided. You know everything about your struggle. You know almost nothing about theirs. And let's get this out of the way. I'm not saying this as the classic, the couple who posts each other online are usually going through something, or rich people are not usually that happy. I know couples who post each other a lot and are really, really happy. I know really wealthy people who are really happy. While there are some truths there, I wouldn't use that as a way to make yourself feel better because that's a false cope. Sometimes what you see is truth. Sometimes what you see is not truth. Either way, it's not your life. What they have, what they think, they do, they say, they accomplish has zero impact on your life unless you let it. And if you let it, here's what that costs you. And I'm not talking about feelings. I'm talking about real, tangible, measurable costs. When you're measuring yourself against someone else's timeline, you try to speed up when you should be patient. You make financial decisions based on what other people appear to have instead of what actually makes sense for where you are in your life. You switch careers, you switch relationships, you switch plans, you switch programs, not because they're not working, but because someone else's version looked better. You quit things right before they were about to take off or compound. You never fully enjoy anything because enjoyment requires presence, and comparison pulls you out of the moment every time. The half marathon, I ran 13 miles and I couldn't even have the full day because comparison doesn't wait for a good time. It doesn't let you celebrate first and then compare later. It shows up in the middle of your best moments and starts doing the math. And the math always comes out the same. Not enough. Not there yet. Not as far as them. Not as good. Just short every single time. So why are we talking about this on a fitness show? Because this building, Build Power Grind, is full of people who are doing real work, hard work. People who are getting stronger, people who are showing up consistently, people who are building something real over weeks and months and years. And some of them are not feeling it, not because the work isn't there, but because they're measuring it against the wrong thing. They're measuring their chapter 3 against someone else's chapter 20. They're measuring their Monday against someone else's highlight reel of their entire year. And the result is that people who are genuinely progressing feel like they're failing. People who are ahead of where they've ever been feel behind. People who just ran the furthest they ever run feel like it wasn't good enough. Today we talk about the comparison trap, not in a vague motivational way, in a specific, honest, vulnerable, what is this actually doing to you kind of way. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Josh. This is Rachel. This is Abby. This is the BPG show. And this is also the finale episode, the last episode of The Grind. The Grind is an 8-week lifestyle challenge series we've been running, built around one idea, that the standard you hold yourself to determines everything. Whether you've been here since week 1 or you found us 5 minutes ago, this one is for you, because the comparison trap is not a fitness problem, it's a human problem, and it's running in the background of your life, whether you're aware of it or not. So let's get into the mechanics of this, because I think most people understand comparison is bad in a vague, like motivational poster kind of way, like don't compare your journey to someone else's kind of way. We've all seen a quote like that. We've probably liked it at some point. I have. And then I opened Instagram 20 minutes later and done exactly that. So clearly awareness isn't enough. Understanding why it happens at a deeper level is what actually gives you something to work with. So, Rachel, from a trainer standpoint, where does this actually start with people?
Yeah, it starts earlier than most people realize. And the first thing I always want people to understand is that social comparison is not a character flaw. It's not something that only insecure or weak people do. As the great poet Kanye West once said, we all self-conscious. I'm just the first to admit it. It is a deeply wired human behavior. There's actually a theory called social comparison theory. It was established in the 1950s, and the basic idea is that humans have a fundamental drive to evaluate themselves. And the primary way we do that is by measuring ourselves against other people. It's how we calibrate. It's how we understand where we are. The issue isn't the mechanism. The issue is what we're feeding into it.
And the environment we're feeding into right now is completely different from anything that the mechanism evolved for, at least so far. For most of human history, you compared yourself to maybe a few dozen people, your actual community, those immediately around you, people whose full lives you had real access to. You knew their struggles because you lived alongside them. The comparison was at least somewhat fair. Now you're comparing yourself to millions of people whose lives you have almost no real access to. You have access to what they chose to post. What they chose to post. I want to emphasize that. And what people choose to post is almost never their worst days.
And here's what makes it so hard to catch. It doesn't feel like comparing yourself to millions of people. It just feels like scrolling, just looking, like staying connected. But your brain is doing the math the entire time, quietly, automatically, without asking for your permission, and it's cumulative. One post, fine. 10 posts, you start feeling something. 30 posts before you've had your morning coffee, and you're already behind before the day has even started.
And what I see in training is that this shows up in really specific ways that people don't always connect to comparison. So, someone is making genuine progress, measurable, real progress. Their strength is improving, consistency is better than it's ever been, and they feel good about it. And then they see someone else's transformation photo, and suddenly everything they've built stops feeling real. Not because anything actually changed, but because the frame changed. One minute they're measuring against themselves, the next minute they're measuring against a stranger's after photo. And the progress that was real 60 seconds ago suddenly feels insufficient.
And from a training standpoint, this is where I see the most actual damage, because comparison doesn't just make people feel bad, it changes their decisions. Someone is 8 weeks into a program and it's working. Their strength is moving, consistency is there, but they see someone who looks dramatically different, who started around the same time. And instead of asking, what did that person do that I can learn from? The first instinct is something must be wrong with what I'm doing. So they switch, they start over, they reset the clock on something that was working, and they never find out how close they actually were.
The restart cycle. And it's not because people are quitters, it's because comparison convinced them the program was the problem when the program wasn't the problem at all.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with nutrition. Someone is eating better than they ever have. They're tracking, hitting protein, consistent throughout the week. And they see someone else's meal prep, someone else's physique, or someone else's what I eat in a day video. And suddenly their approach feels wrong, like they're missing something. And they start chasing a different system instead of staying with the one that was already producing results.
I want to mention something specific here because I think it's worth saying directly. Comparison doesn't just affect how you feel, it affects your relationship with time. When you're on your own timeline measuring against yourself, you can be patient. You can stay the course because you can see the direction of travel. But when you're on someone else's timeline, patience becomes almost impossible because you're not measuring direction anymore, you're measuring distance. And the distance between you and someone else never closes fast enough. So you rush, you burn out, or maybe you quit. And then you start over and the cycle continues.
And I'll say something that might be uncomfortable, especially for us as gym owners and trainers. The gym is one of the worst environments for this. In most areas of life, your effort is private. Nobody sees how hard you're working on your finances or your relationships or your career. But in a gym, it's all visible. The weight on the bar, the body in the mirror, how hard someone is breathing, how much they're lifting. And that visibility can be incredibly motivating or incredibly paralyzing, depending on what you're doing with that information once you receive it.
The question I come back to constantly is, are you doing it for you, or are you doing it to measure yourself against the room? Because those two feel similar from the outside, but they produce completely different results. One of them is training and the other is performing. And performing for an audience that isn't even watching you is one of the most exhausting things that a person can do.
For sure. And here's the bottom line on this. Comparison is not a discipline problem. You can't out willpower it. It's a focus problem, a data problem. You're using the wrong information to evaluate your progress. And the only real fix is changing what you're measuring against. Aside from my marathon story, do either one of y'all have like a comparison moment that kind of robbed you of the moment?
Yeah, I think a little bit different that you constantly have to keep self-correcting. I think a lot of moms out there can resonate with how the algorithm constantly picks up exactly wherever you are in your like pregnancy or postpartum journey. But I know that I would get on the internet and I'd be like, say like 30 weeks pregnant, and I was like doing workouts, but like you're also getting tired. And I would see somebody else being like 30 weeks pregnant, going out for a 5-mile run and then coming in and lifting this. And like, then I would feel like, oh, I'm not doing enough. When before that I was like proud of myself for just working out and staying consistent. And that's something that happens throughout, but it's like not anyone's fault. It's just like you have to remind yourself like to listen to your body and your journey. So I think that's my most recent.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And kind of in the same vein as yours, Josh, is weights in the gym, because I know that's one that I struggled with for a long time when I was first starting, because I would, show up consistently. I was working hard. And then I would look at someone else who, like you said, I was on chapter 1 or 2 and they were on chapter 20 or 25. And I was comparing the weight that I was lifting to what they were doing. But again, as well, and we've talked about this in the grind on other live streams, it's not always about the weight either. I was still learning how to move my limbs at that point under load. So
just learning the technique.
Just learning. Yeah.
That's probably the most common ones in the gym. So if comparison against others is the problem, what's the alternative? And I want to be careful here because I'm not about to tell you to stop caring about what other people do. That's not realistic. It's not human. Other people's success can be genuinely inspiring when you're using it right. The difference is using someone else's journey as fuel versus using it as a measuring stick. Fuel helps you move. A measuring stick just tells you how short you are.
And the measuring stick that actually produces useful information, the only one that does, is the one that measures you against yourself, who you were, what you could do, how you felt, what your numbers were before.
And this sounds simple, but it's genuinely harder than it sounds because our culture does not reward internal comparison. Nobody goes viral for posting, I'm less tired at the end of the day than I was 8 weeks ago. And nobody gets 100 comments on, I pushed my sets harder this week than last week. Nobody shares, I hit my protein 5 days in a row, and it was the most consistent I've ever been. But those things are real, and they compound in ways that the highlight reel stuff just doesn't.
And that's the proof in that is that sometimes whenever YouTube posts like the most important information that you've ever put together, it's like 2 likes.
2 likes. Yeah, always.
And so You versus You it's been a part of the BPG branding since day one. So what does You versus You actually look like in practice? Because I think people hear it as a motivational phrase, and then they don't know what to do with it on a Tuesday morning. So, Abby, from a training standpoint, what does measuring yourself against yourself actually mean, like day to day?
Well, it starts with having a baseline, a real one, numbers and not feelings. So for BPG members, you get to establish this on base day, what we just did yesterday. For others, always feel free to DM or comment, email us, and we'll be happy to help you with this. But essentially asking questions like, are you lifting more than you were a month ago? Are you recovering faster between sessions? Are you pushing sets harder than you used to? Are you showing up more consistently than you ever have? These are all You versus You data points, and none of them require anyone else's progress to evaluate. The problem is most people don't have a baseline because they've never written anything down. They've been training solely on feel, and feel is not data. Feel is just the current mood applied to the current moment.
And on the lifestyle and nutrition side, the markers go way beyond the scale, like energy levels throughout the day, how you feel after meals, whether you're consistently thinking about food or it's just a part of your routine now. Whether weekends feel like a free-for-all or the structure holds without much effort. Also, sleep quality, how you feel walking into the gym versus how you used to feel walking into the gym. These are all real progress markers, and almost none of them show up in a before and after photo, which is part of why people miss them. They're looking for the photo, and the most meaningful progress often doesn't photograph.
Yeah, and there's something I want to say about the finish line mentality because it connects to all of this. A lot of people only allow themselves to acknowledge progress when they reach the destination or a destination. I'll know I've made progress when I hit a certain weight, or I'll know I made the progress when I look a certain way, or when I can lift a certain number. And everything before that destination gets categorized as not there yet, which means months, sometimes years of real, genuine change gets dismissed because it didn't arrive at the finish line.
And the finish line keeps moving because once you get there, there's always another finish line. So the person who's only measuring against the destination is never actually winning. They're just perpetually not there yet for their entire life. For some people, that idea works, but for a lot of people, that idea is devastating.
Or like the person who measures the distance traveled instead of the distance remaining. They're winning constantly, not in a delusional way, in a real evidence-based way. Every session harder than the last, every week more consistent than the one before. Every time they push through something, they would have quit sooner. Those are wins. They're available right now, regardless of where anyone else is.
And here's what I've noticed about people who operate this way, who genuinely measure against themselves. They tend to be the ones who make the most progress long term, not because they're more talented, not because they have better genetics or more time, because they never quit when someone else made them feel behind, because they never switched programs when comparison made the current one feel slow, because they stayed on their own timeline long enough for the work to compound. Patience is a competitive advantage, and you versus you is what makes patience actually possible.
Now, one of the most common things I hear from people when they're in a comparison spiral is, I've been doing this for months and I'm still not where I want to be. And when I dig in and ask them, like, where did you start? What was your energy like? What were your habits like? Almost always the honest answer is that a lot has changed. And after talking to them, they have to admit, I'm actually really different than I was before I started. The problem isn't that they haven't made any progress. The problem is they've been measuring against someone else's destination instead of their own starting point. And when that frame shifts, something changes.
And that's what we want for the BPG culture. This is what we want for you listening, even if you are not at BPG. Not comparison analysis, not the restart cycle, not the quiet exhaustion of measuring yourself against thousands of people simultaneously and coming up short every time. Just your work, your progress, your baseline, your plan, and your next step. That's you versus you, and that's it.
Before we move on, one question I want you to think about is, when's the last time you measured your progress against where you started instead of where someone else is? When's the last time you gave yourself credit for the distance traveled instead of only focusing on the distance remaining? If you can't answer that, that might be the most useful thing you take from today. I want to take a few minutes here and acknowledge the grind and what happened over the last 8 weeks. And I'm going to do this in a way that works for people who were here for all of it and for people who just started listening today. Because if you're new, this is actually useful context. The grind was a lifestyle challenge, 8 weeks. We did 8 episodes. I had one framework, and each episode was a piece of it. We started, the first episode was consistency beats intensity, because wanting to change and actually change are two completely different things. The gap between them is almost never information. It's almost always execution.
Then a plan that works when life hits, because anyone can follow a plan when life is easy. The plan that matters is the one that survives a hard week.
The next episode we did was when your effort feels louder than results, because as we mentioned, sometimes you are working really hard and looking for results in the wrong places at the wrong time.
And then we had, really important, all of them are really important, but win the weekend. Because for most people, the weekend is where all the weekday work quietly gets undone. And nobody really talks about it honestly.
Then our next episode, which was one of my favorites, was the drift, boredom, fads, and supplements. Because at some point, the newness wears off and what's left is just the work, which isn't as shiny and fun. And the work has to be enough. Shiny objects pop up and you must stay the course.
And next we had the miracle drug, which is sleep, because you can do everything else right. And if you're not sleeping, then you're leaving more on the table than you realize.
For sure. And then we had the episode that was good food, bad food, kind of dismantling the idea that food is moral. that you're good when you eat certain things and you're bad when you eat others, and replacing that with something that actually produces long-term consistency.
And finally, our last episode was the lifestyle standard, ownership, and execution. This is where we got really technical. Training intensity, nutrition accuracy, measurement, and ownership. The 4 things that, when they're all present, make results inevitable over time.
And today, you versus you. That's 8 episodes. That's a complete framework. None of them were meant to stand alone. Every single one of them connects to the next. Mindset into planning, into effort, into consistency, into sustainability, into nutrition, into execution, into ownership, and now into self-measurement. That's the whole picture.
And what I want to say to all the people who were here for all of it, you did something that most people don't do. You stayed. You showed up for 8 weeks in a row and sat with information that wasn't always super comfortable. It challenged you to look at your own habits honestly, and that challenged you to keep going when you wanted to quit, and that asked you to take responsibility for things it would have been easier to just explain away. That's nothing. That's actually a lot. So be proud of yourself for that.
And to the people who were here but maybe didn't apply everything perfectly, who maybe missed a week here or there, who heard something and knew they should change it and didn't yet, this part is for you, so please listen up. The information we covered does not expire. The concepts we discussed do not expire. The truth still remains the truth. Everything we covered over 8 weeks is still true tomorrow. The lifestyle standard doesn't have a deadline. You versus you doesn't have a start date. Whatever you are or wherever you are right now is your baseline, and that's enough to start from. So when you are ready, just go.
I want to take a moment and acknowledge the collection of people from the grind. We see you. We also appreciate you more than we probably say out loud. What you all built over these 8 weeks is real. Don't let comparison take that from you. One more thing about the grind. We're going to give you all 10 more bonus points. If you drop in the comment section now, what was the most beneficial part to you of the grind? I know that this is on your sheet. We want it in the comments so that we can talk about it at the end here. That'll be your last 10 minutes. We're going to take a short break, like 2 minutes. And then when we come back, we're going to have a base day recap with Ashton, a physical therapy talk with Michaela, what phase 2 looks like if you want a sneak peek into what the programming looks like, and then what our plans are with this show moving forward. So we'll be back in like 2 or 3 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. We've got Ashton on this side of the camera now. He's joining us to talk a little bit about base day. So Ashton, go ahead and set the scene for people who weren't here. What was base day actually like?
Yeah, so obviously you come in right through the locker room, you come onto the floor, and it's almost set up kind of like a build day to kind of give it like that blank slate. In that sense, the weight stacks are on the open side. We have benches because we did, bench press for one of the events, foreshadowing a little bit there. But on the rig side, and then there's some jumping areas back at the turf. But kind of atmosphere-wise, it's super energetic. Lacey, she leads it. So shout out there, Lacey. That's your one for the day. But she's leading it, going through a warm-up, and she's taking you around the room. It's set up just like class, basically, with the structure. You have set amount of sets, set amount of time, so you're still on the clock, so it's not free-flowing. So it's still a highly structured workout as what we try to get, right, within the hour. Obviously, it's a little bit longer, so it's an hour 45, because there are more events. It is, it's an event day, so you're doing multiple different events and testing yourself based on different measurables that we've been progressing throughout the phase.
Yeah, so speaking of events, what were all of the events? Kind of walk us through what those were.
So like I said, we started off with the 1 rep bench press on the rig side. And then we had the 3 rep back squat, which we did on Monday this week. So you could, right, get the most out of the events on Saturday. On the open side, we had the 5 rep deadlift, push-ups, high jump, broad jump, trying to get out there, dead hang, and then we had some ergs in there too for our erg lovers. 4K bike, 2K ski or row, and 1 mile run, either on the runner or outside. We had a path set up for that.
Yeah, so if you've been here, they kind of alternate each quarter. So we'll see these events again later in the year. So were there moments yesterday that stood out to you specifically, numbers that surprised you, or people who maybe surprised themselves that you saw?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked it. I had a list of people that just stood out to me. If I missed anyone that's watching or watches this later, don't be offended. I see you. We see you. You did great as well. Even if you just did back squats on Monday, you did phenomenal. First one was Jill Davis. I was talking to her on Saturday. I believe she's been at BBG now for about 3 years or so. That number could be wrong. I'm sorry again. But she has shown great improvement over each phase and the base weeks, base days that she's been here. Some areas that I thought her deadlift went up 25 pounds.
Damn. That's crazy.
That's awesome.
135 to 160 pounds. That was dating back to phase 3 of 2025, so like September. Her high jump went up 1.5 inches.
Good job, Jill.
Yes, which for those of you that maybe don't understand the high jump all too much, like that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Like even
Yeah.
a 1/4 inch, just it's top shelf energy
Yeah.
right there. Her push-up, she added 6 on the first round. So you have a set amount of time to do push-ups, you get some rest, and then you get a second opportunity to do push-ups. And on the second one, she added 1, which is still great in and of itself.
Go Jill.
Yeah.
Yes, go Jill.
Way to go, Jill.
Another one, a first-time base day participant after a full strength block, which is Chelsea Greenway. It's been great to see her confidence grow and her fitness journey overall starting out. And some of the areas that I thought that were great were her bench press. It was 105 pounds. And from meeting you for the first time about 13 to 14 weeks ago, Chelsea, if you're watching, when you just started learning how to use a barbell, and everyone, Abby, Rachel, can attest to that,
It's a big
to
deal.
now testing your bench press, like that's a credit to yourself and a dedication to your journey. So keep that up there. Your deadlift, 175 pounds. Again, great effort for just recently having a barbell in your hand. And this one, my goodness, 60-inch broad jump.
That is insane.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I love the jumps. Those are my
Yes.
favorite.
Yes. So, like, obviously, you all know, right, Abby? You were talking about it when you were just starting out how to even like put yourself under load, like using your
Yeah.
legs under load.
Yeah.
Like, so like learning how to use the barbell at first is hard, but like learning how to bound and absorb forces, like learning how to crawl and then walk. It's something that isn't easy, and B, it's something to again be proud of.
For sure. Good job, Chelsea.
Yes. Third one, Scott Jones. I love being around Scott. I love being around everybody, but Scott, he's been at BPG for quite some time. In my time being a trainer here, I've gotten to take some classes with them, and he brings some good
He
energy.
brings the energy. Yeah.
Always.
It's like a different type of energy. He's done base weeks, but this is his first base day after talking to him. And so he actually pushes me too in class. He always gives me a high five or a fist bump during the workout when we got 4-minute ergs on a grind day. That's a grind for sure.
Yes.
That's a grind. Some areas for Scott, 1:10 on the dead hang. Like I know his forearms were hurting after
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
It's a long time to hang on the bar. So don't sleep on that. 250 on the bench press, which I was talking to Scott, and I actually don't know if he's like ever kind of pushed himself on the bench press like that. Like talking with him, he said like that's the most I've ever kind of like pushed myself.
Yeah, and that's what's fun about base day too. I'm not sure who he was partnered with, but sometimes like the partner you're with can be that push that you need. You know.
Yeah, the energy and people cheering for you and all that
Mhm.
stuff. Yeah, really helps you find your max. Yeah.
Yes. And 84 push-ups between both sets. I think he actually got like 50 on the first one, and like
Whoa.
Awesome.
yeah. So he was moving.
Good job,
Um,
Scott.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
saw his too, and they were like all the way chest to floor.
We
which
love a
was
good
crazy.
full range of
Yeah.
motion.
Yes. Chest to floor, lock out the elbows.
Uh-huh.
Not t- if you're on there, you don't lock out your elbows, maybe this is your calling to start locking out your elbows. I don't know. I'm not calling anyone out specifically here. Last one, this member actually just joined us very recently, Zach Thurber. He's a very natural athlete, and it shows in class, and he pushes me, he pushes himself. The natural athleticism showed on base day, 85-inch broad jump. Yeah, which is like,
Awesome.
yeah, I think that's like 8 feet. 9 feet, something like that, 7 feet. It's
Yeah.
somewhere around
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
somewhere around there. For me personally, I know broad jumps are pretty easy to get in your head before, because it's different than like a high jump where you're just trying to like jump as high as you can. Like,
Yeah.
you got to
yeah.
jump out and then catch your legs, your feet underneath you.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. Coming from someone who is not a good jumper, that's like really far. Good job, Zach.
So like I know it can get daunting.
What else did he hit?
23-inch high jump.
Nice.
Yes. So bunnies there. So bunnies all the way around.
Yeah.
Yes.
All of you were bunnies.
yeah.
What the heck?
Right. And then set a great baseline on his back squat. 225 on there
Awesome.
too. So that's great.
Yeah. And you said it was his first base day?
First
Yeah.
base day. Yeah. He
Awesome.
just joined us maybe a month ago.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love it,
maybe
Zach.
Yeah.
It's a month ago. It's been great. And then one more here. So April Fletcher, she said that her lifts stayed the same or maybe were 5-10 pounds less, which is totally okay. Like sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
I think it all depends on obviously nutrition, sleep, as we talked about.
And consistency through the phase, too.
Yes.
And I think people
Mhm.
underestimate, like, April's been here for a long
Long
time.
time.
And when you are an experienced lifter, like, yes, April, I would put you under that category of like an experienced
Mhm.
lifter. Hitting the same thing or within 5 to 10 pounds of what you've hit before is
a good
really
thing.
good.
Yeah, it's a
Like,
great thing.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yes. And her broad jump, high jump, dead hang, and mile all improved. So like there's still improvement
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
That's
in-
awesome.
in
That's
all,
really good.
all areas of, her fitness journey. And broad jump, just some tangible numbers here. 58 inches to 63 inches since phase
Wow.
3.
That's
Good
awesome.
job,
Good job,
April.
April.
Yes.
That is so awesome. So, what did you notice about people mentally going into base day versus coming out of it? Because I think there's something that happens in that room that's hard to describe until you've been through it.
Yeah. So Nick Leinbach actually mentioned to Josh as he was like warming up, and if you know Nick, if you take 5 a.m., he gets here like 45 minutes early.
He's big energy too.
Right. He was warming up and he said it felt like a game day atmosphere, and we love that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. We
Yeah, I
definitely do.
remember that feeling from like high school right before a game.
Yeah.
You're like pumped up.
It's like that adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
All right. And last question for you. For the people watching who weren't there yesterday and want to be at the next one, what do they need to know?
All I gotta say, it's a really, really fun day. I enjoy it myself personally. I've been around the gym before I was even a trainer. I've done the base weeks. I enjoy the atmosphere that base day has brought, and just the execution of it from a staff level and from how the members have enjoyed it. Everyone just wants to see you win.
Mm-hmm.
The energy is just great. So, Ashton, thank you so much
Thank you guys.
for bringing us those numbers and that explanation of base day.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and you know what I think is so powerful about what Ashton described is that every single number that went into the Excel sheet yesterday was genuinely a you versus you moment. Nobody was competing against each other. They were competing against their own baseline. Some of those people had never tested themselves like that before. And that number, whatever it was, is now theirs. It belongs to them. And the next base day, it becomes the thing that they're chasing.
And that's exactly why measurement matters. We talked about it in episode 7, but you can't progressively overload from a number that you've never recorded. So base day helps give you that number. That's the whole point. So yeah, if you don't know your base day number, you can actually start establishing that at the beginning of the next phase. So if you have questions about that, send us a DM and we'll help you get started. You don't have to have a number to get started. Okay, we have one more person joining us tonight who was also at base day yesterday and who I think is going to add a really important layer to this conversation. Michaela Williams is a doctor of physical therapy, and she was at base day yesterday with her cupping and soft tissue work. So, Michaela, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, for anyone who doesn't know what you did yesterday, walk us through it. What is cupping and soft tissue massage, and why does it matter specifically on a day like base day?
Yeah, so yesterday we did our base day recovery sessions, and the goal of those is to improve your muscles recovery and reduce soreness after the workout. They were 15 minutes long, and they included soft tissue work and myofascial decompression using the cups. It started out with me asking what areas that they felt like they needed to focus on, whether it was increased soreness or tightness or effort from base day, or if they've had any trouble throughout this past phase. So from there, we started with soft tissue work, so utilizing massage techniques with various pressures. And the goal with that is to just move fluid that may have accumulated after that max effort exercise and increasing blood flow to those to bring in good oxygen and nutrients and clear out some of those biochemicals that accumulate after exercise. And then also identifying trigger points and taut bands within the muscles, so that way I can apply pressure and get those to relax so you're not fighting those and soreness. And then we use the cups. So with cupping, it's myofascial decompression, and I'm going to go on a whole podcast for that. So we'll have more to follow, but just quickly, what I do is I put the cups on in either the impaired areas or the areas we wanted to focus on. And so I apply them, and then we go through movements, whether it's active or passive. And primarily, I'm wanting to increase blood flow to those muscles. But also, you have various tissue layers that surround your muscles. So fascia, ground substance, there's collagen fibers suspended. And so with that, the cups actually manipulate the viscosity of that ground substance. And so with that, it thins it out, and it allows the muscles and the fascia and all of that to slide, glide, and fold over each other as you're moving. And that way, you're not having those tissues getting bogged down as you're trying to recover.
Yeah, I personally love cupping. I think it
Same.
feels so good. So what did you see yesterday? Like, what did people's bodies tell you when they came to you after the event?
So primarily, everyone that I saw yesterday fit into two presentations. One, they either had a nagging issue throughout the phase, or there was nothing going on. They just wanted to improve their recovery. So the ones that were just there for straight recovery, the next question that I asked them is, what did they push the most on during base day? And most everyone was saying like deadlifts. So with that, we did a more like hamstring focused treatment. So putting the cups on, going through flexion and extension of the legs, and then following that with hamstring scoops and squats and that kind of stuff to just take those tissues through full range of motion with and without the cups. And then the ones that had the more nagging issues, they were primarily like upper trap and shoulder stuff going on, which is very, very common, especially in just your average individual. Okay. And then, so that's very common. Most of us live in a forward world. So we're at a desk, we're at a computer, and we're on our phones. And then you come into the gym and you're doing push-ups and dead hangs and power cleans and bench. And so all of a sudden you're expected to be up here and perform up here and be under load up here. And a lot of times people just have range of motion and load tolerance issues. So with those people, I was identifying trigger points in those taut bands, and I was applying the cups there, applying the soft tissue techniques, and then taking them through full range of motion. And what was really nice seeing people after exercise is those muscles and tissues were warm and they were very pliable. So I was able to push into that range of motion and really help them.
Yeah, that's awesome. So from a PT standpoint, what does the recovery window look like after something like base day? We're recording this today after base day, so it's today's Sunday. What should people literally be doing right now?
Yeah. So the day after, you're probably sore. And at this point, you're probably still getting sore, primarily like hamstrings, anterior tibs, extensor digit, like your shins, your chest, your forearms, all of those areas that were really hit hard during your max efforts yesterday. So just in general, your recovery should have started yesterday, and you're continuing and building on that today. So immediately afterwards, water and hydration, and maybe even some electrolytes if you needed it. Just really making sure you're rehydrating your body. And I was talking about that ground substance, so that absorbs water. And so you're wanting to make sure that you're getting good hydration, so that way all of your tissues are recovering and gliding. And then intentional nutrition. So 30 to 60 minutes after base day, I want you to be having like a carb and a protein source. So a quick carb that's going to replenish your glycogen stores that you've depleted during exercise, and then a really solid protein source. So just a little side note, I did my exercise science undergrad at ETSU, and at that time it was an Olympic training site, and so a lot of my professors worked with the Olympic weightlifting team. And in exercise physiology one day, my professor was talking about how during their training they would be popping like Sour Patch Kids for that quick carb. But what stuck with me is she was saying afterwards they would recommend to drink chocolate milk because the carb to protein ratio of chocolate milk is just really good.
Yeah.
And it's a quick and easy way of just consuming something after you work out and really setting yourself up for success.
You don't need to tell me that twice.
Yeah. And then rest and sleep. You really want those 7 to 9 hours of typical sleep that we always recommend. But maybe even taking some naps. You might even need a little bit of extra around this time. And then active recovery, I want you to stay moving. We need to keep those tissues pliable and improving blood flow through them while they're trying to recover. But you want to avoid the same exercises that we did during base day. So going for a walk, doing dynamic stretching, riding a bike, going swimming, doing yoga, just something to keep those fibers moving and blood flow pumping in that area.
Yeah, for sure. I know Wayne loves hearing the Sour Patch Kid.
Yeah. I'm more of a
Suggestion.
gummy worm girl, but I get it. I get it.
A lot of people are doing like the gummy cluster, the nerds cluster.
Oh, yeah, those are popular.
Anything, just those quick carbs.
Yeah. So I know we're starting to touch on nutrition. Like anything else that people should be prioritizing specifically for that recovery and tissue repair.
Yeah. So most people today, you're probably hungry. I laugh and say build day hunger hits different, but really base day hunger should really hit different because you're going from the 70, 80, 90% efforts throughout the phase to like 100% effort yesterday. So your body is burning through energy to repair and recover. So you really need good protein intake because you need those amino acids to repair the micro trauma that your muscles underwent yesterday. And then, like I said, carbs, restoring those glycogen stores. So with that, snacks, frequent meals. I want you, eating every 3 to 4 hours, just listening to your body. And this isn't the time to be in a calorie deficit. Like you really need to be restocking your body.
Also, don't need to tell me to snack twice.
Yeah.
So last question, Michaela, what's the one thing people consistently underdo when it comes to recovery and the thing that you wish more people took seriously?
Yeah. So with that, I really think of two things. The first thing is quality rest. So I talked about active rest, but just in general, taking time to just sit and have quiet time. And what's so important with this is putting your phone down. I think that was on the grind. Part of the grind is just taking time throughout your day and just putting your phone down and just being present. When I talk to clients and patients recovering from injury, I talk about keeping your world small during that time.
I love
and it
that.
applies still here because if you're sitting but you're scrolling and you're seeing everything that's happening in the world, your body's not resting because you're stressing, you're thinking of everything, you're worrying, and it's just not worth it. Just take some time away from it. And then I know a lot of our members are parents and have kids and have busy schedules, but I know like at this point you've prioritized going to base day, and I think it's so important to prioritize recovery at this point. That way you're set up for success for the next phase. And then also just keeping it simple. You guys talk a lot about doing the basics well, which I think is incredible, and it really applies here. Before today, I Googled top recovery strategies and tools to recover after max effort exercise. And the list was like Theraguns, foam rollers, sauna, cold plunge, compression boots, supplements, all of these things that you need and society is saying you need to recover. And we're a consumer society. We want the next best thing. We want what Instagram is telling us is cool and the trend. But for the vast majority of the population, if you have hydration, if you have nutrition, if you have good rest and sleep, like you're going to recover. And until you can do those things well, you don't need to worry about the next trend and stuff. So just save yourself some money and just eat and sleep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Michaela, this was so valuable. Thank you so much for being here and for everything you brought to Base Day yesterday. And for anyone who's watching who might want to book with Michaela, we'll have some information on that in the comments and in the description.
Yeah, and you know what I keep coming back to after everything Michaela just said? Recovery is not optional. It's not a bonus if you have time. It's part of the process. The training creates the signal. The nutrition provides the material. The recovery is when your body actually does the work. All three have to be there. We've said that all series long. What Michaela just talked about made it real and in a very specific way.
Yes, and the next Base Day in 12 weeks, you now have a baseline. You have numbers, real ones, yours, and that changes everything about how you train between now and then. Because now you're not just training, you're training towards something specific, something that belongs to you.
That's exactly right. And this information will be pushed out soon, probably via email, app, in the Instagram group. You can now schedule a free check-in with a trainer to talk about goal setting for the next 12 weeks. This will be available after Base Day every phase now. So please take advantage of this. Before we do get to the end segment and wrap things up, Abby, Rachel, why do you think that these check-ins that we're implementing are going to be beneficial? And then the second part of that question is, how can people get the most out of them?
I think what will be super beneficial is just having kind of like a third-party person look at what you've been doing if you've been here and be able to kind of give you a direction, at least, especially because we do have insider knowledge about the programming. So there's that.
Yeah, and
Yes.
definitely accountability. Just
That as well.
knowing someone else is aware of like what you're working towards, and then that'll allow
Yeah,
us to
and
hold
that-
you accountable.
For sure will help us push you in class.
Yeah, and this is something that we actually started working on in January of 24 or 25? January of 25. January of 25. But we never implemented it. And then we had someone recently just ask and say, you know, I've kind of always set the goals myself, and maybe for you all, you do that too, or maybe you've never set a goal. You don't know what that looks like. So we are providing the space for us to ask the right questions to you to see what your goals should be. So, all right, to wrap this up, the grind was a challenge. Again, it was 8 episodes, a defined window, a beginning and an end, and it was designed that way on purpose. Challenges work because they have a finish line. The finish line creates urgency, and then urgency creates commitment. But a challenge has a ceiling. You can only go so deep in 8 episodes. And after 8 weeks of doing this, we have a lot more to say. You all know I have plenty to say. So we're not stopping, we're expanding.
The BPG show live stream will air at a minimum quarterly after today. So we'll have the same format, YouTube live stream, but we're just going to go a little bit bigger, a little bit broader. We're going to dive deeper into some different topics. And instead of weekly, it will just be 4 times a year or once a quarter. We might do more, but we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. So for now, it's going to stay quarterly, and we're going to do it in alignment with the BPG phases.
Yeah, and here's why quarterly matters. Weekly challenges work for building habits and momentum, but quarterly gives us something weekly can't, which is time. Time to bring in guests, time to go deeper on topics that deserve more than one segment, and more importantly, time to let you actually apply things between episodes. The quarterly show is built for depth, not volume.
So here's exactly what the quarterly show covers. Similar to our podcast, but a little more structure. You know, we love some structure at BPG. And live is just fun. We love having the opportunity to be here with you and connect with you in real time. At the end of each show, go into the comment section. We love that. But we'll have training deep dives like real depth, programming, movement quality, the science behind what we do, nutrition and lifestyle. We'll have member spotlights. That's something that we really love. And we may end up doing some of that on the podcast, but we want to do that more here, kind of like we did with Ashton there. Industry guests, same thing. We may have some of these on the podcast, but doctors, physical therapists like Michaela, maybe other strength coaches and experts, business and mindset. We'll have Q&As. That's what we love here is we can't wait to, we haven't got to see what you all put in the comment section yet, but we will here in just a few minutes. Phase recaps and what's coming next, which is what we just did and what we're going to do. So we're really excited to continue doing this show with you all.
Yeah, and what I'm most excited to bring to the show is some more nutrition and lifestyle conversations at a deeper level. Like, I think that we just scratched the surface with the grind, and there's so much more. I want to talk a little bit more about eating for performance versus eating for body composition, and how nutrition changes through the different phases of training, and the relationship between sleep, stress, hormones, and lifestyle. These are all conversations and topics that we have like written down that we would love to do a full deep dive on. And now we have this format to do that.
Yeah, and for me, it's the guests and the training deep dives. There are people I want to bring into this show who can go 10 levels deeper on specific topics. Today was a preview of what that looks like. Michaela in here talking about soft tissue work and recovery, and that's exactly the kind of conversation the quarterly show is built for.
And again, for me, it's the member spotlights because here's what I know after 8 weeks of doing this. The most powerful thing we did wasn't the information. It was the people. The people who showed up every week, who asked real questions, who held themselves and each other accountable. This is the biggest thing. They normalize the conversation about standards and effort and honesty. And I feel like that doesn't happen enough. So the quarterly show keeps that alive. And the member spotlight segment is where this culture gets to see itself reflected back. Real people, real results, real stories from people who train right here at BPG.
Yeah, I think every show I'm just itching to get to the comment section. I'm like, I want to see
I can't wait.
what the grind
saying?
participants
Yeah. I
are
can't wait.
talking about. But if you're new today, this is your on-ramp. You didn't have to be a grind participant. You don't need 8 weeks of context. And you don't have to watch every grind episode. We're just going to do this quarterly show for anyone. So wherever you are, join us on this journey.
Yeah, and subscribe, follow, share this with someone who needs it, because the more people we have in this circle, the better the conversations get. And the better the conversations get, the more everyone in the circle grows.
Yeah, so this is the first quarterly show, and the second date will be announced soon. So if you follow BPG on all the different platforms and subscribe on YouTube, you won't miss it.
Yeah, and as we wrap up, I want to come back to where we started. The half marathon, 13, obviously, let's end on me. The half marathon, 13.1 miles. It was the furthest I'd ever run in my life. And by the end of the same day, someone else's number on a damn app made it feel like it didn't count. I've thought about that a lot since it happened. And here's what I keep coming back to. The run that I did didn't change. The miles that I ran did not change. What I accomplished, it didn't change. The only thing that changed was what I chose to measure it against. And that choice, because it was a choice, that simple choice about what scoreboard you're using determines almost everything. For the people who've been here since week 1, you made a decision 8 weeks ago to show up, and you kept making that decision week after week, even when it was inconvenient, even when the content made you uncomfortable, even for some of you when the progress felt slow, you stayed. And the version of you that exists today is not the same version that showed up 8 weeks ago. Maybe the scale moved. Maybe it didn't. Maybe your strength numbers jumped. Maybe they moved slower than you wanted. But something shifted in how you think about your training, and how you think about food, and how you hold yourself accountable, and how you talk to yourself when progress feels slow. That's real, and that's yours. No comparison to anyone else in this challenge, anyone on your feed, anyone in this building can take that from you unless you let it.
And for the people who found this today for the first time, you landed here for a reason. Maybe the title caught you. Maybe someone shared it. Maybe the algorithm put it in front of you at the right moment. Maybe you're a competitor just trying to see what we got going on over here. Whatever it was, please stay, not because of us, because of the work, because the conversation we're having here about standards, about execution, about owning your process, this is the conversation that changes things, and it's available to you starting right now from wherever you are.
The grind is over. Tomorrow is tomorrow. Keep taking ownership and keep executing. The next base day is coming. Train hard and measure all the small things.
All the small things matter. And you versus you, that doesn't end today. Whenever we end this show, that is the standard. It's just the standard. Every day, every session, every meal, every decision is you versus who you were yesterday. That's the whole game. Thanks for watching, and we'll get into the comments. All right. So first, Lindsay said the live stream and the community.
Mm-hmm. Community is big.
Love that. Wayne said tracking all food and protein intake. I know that Wayne did mention that a lot, that in his sheets, that just tracking, like the awareness. I know Wayne's tracked in the past before, but always coming back to that is always like a good thing every once in a while. Chelsea said adding fiber to every meal and tracking my sleep. That's like, the fiber one is good because it adds it typically will add variety vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
So then that, what we talked about with the micronutrients, it's like it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Knock those out.
Fiber is the new it girl, and for a really good reason.
For sure.
It'll keep you full, and sleep is a big one too,
Yeah, and
especially
tracking the sleep and being aware.
Yeah, that's like what I found with people that, were saying that they were well rested on 5 hours of sleep, and then they actually try to consistently get 7 to 9 hours, and they you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And they're
That's
like,
a fact.
wow.
Even for me, so if you would have asked me before I got this damn Garmin, if you would have asked me like how many hours I sleep, I would just say like 7 or 8, because I feel good for the most part, 7 or 8. But then the damn Garmin says I'll be sleeping like 5-6 hours, and that's kind of embarrassing. Like, what am I doing?
Your watch is shaming
Yeah,
you.
I'm a grown ass man. I need to get some sleep. That's crazy. Chelsea, Jenna said all of the live streams have been so helpful. I can't pick just one. I think I've learned the most about nutrition and macro tracking. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Just that information. And Jenna told me that she's a big proponent of these and podcasts and all that. So that's obviously those are really popular. April said she agrees the live stream and the community. Realizing what I thought I was doing well with my nutrition was definitely not. And then also, April, I always have to come back to this with you because I love you so much. Give yourself some credit as well. I'm sure that there were things that you were not doing well, but there is a lot that we see because we've seen you that you have been doing really well. So just do this. I know you might be sitting at home, meal prepping, pat yourself on the back. Sherry, the live streams each week, I felt like you were talking directly to me each week. And sometimes calling me out on things. maybe we were. Maybe we were like, this one's for Sherry. Lacey said all of the live streams were really helpful. The nutrition focus, incorporating fiber and protein into every meal was one of the most beneficial things for me.
Awesome.
Yeah, Lacey, I bet you feel better after adding that fiber and protein, especially like your workouts and stuff. You're probably recovering a little quicker and all of that. Christina, the live streams were really helpful, and the idea of consistency and anchors, not missing twice, that every meal, day, workout is an opportunity, and missing one doesn't have to mean giving up. Yes, everyone, please take that with you. Tomorrow is tomorrow. Just keep going. Like we said in other episodes, if you if you have a cinnamon roll for breakfast, that doesn't mean just throw out the whole day or the whole weekend or the whole month. Like, who cares? Eat the cinnamon roll and then just get back on it. Move on. Aston, we can't hear you well. I did see that, Aston, and then I think that Michaela pulled the mic, and I think that's what you're talking about. Sour Patch Kids for the win, Wayne. Yes. And then Aston has FOMO from missing base day. Next time, Aston.
You should.
You should. We already have the next base day on the calendar, so we will put that in the Instagram chat.
Saturday, June 27th.
Yeah. Ashton, do you have those files? Can we pull some of those up? So if you all want to hang out for a second, we will give you a sneak peek.
Ooh.
for the next couple things. Yeah, let's do the announcements first. So there's the one slide.
Are we talking about a phase 2 sneak peek?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Y'all are getting to see the trainer slides if you're staying here.
This is proprietary
date one?
information.
So we have Save the Date. That's going to be May 2nd is going to be with Michaela. Do we have a topic on that? Michaela is going to be doing a workshop on May 2nd. And then June 27th will be the Q2 base day. And we're also going to have another live training with our trainers. If you got to come to that last time, that's where we blend two classes. Like it might be Build Power or Build Grind. And it's a little bit longer class. I think it's like a 75-minute class, but all of our trainers are on the floor, and we're giving live cueing. So it's a training for our trainers. So we'll have like 4 or 5 mics on the floor, and everyone's getting like hundreds of cues. It's really cool for the members, and then it allows us to really, really dive deep with our trainers in real time. The next one is the base day. Rachel, do you want to go through these?
Yeah, sure. So next base day, we're going to have strict press. So your 1 rep strict press. On that, for your phase, it will be rotating back and forth between bench press and strict press each week, because that strict press is going to be our focus for that next base day. We're going to have pull-ups. We're also going to have hip thrusts, so a 3-rep hip thrust. You'll see that on build day. An attempt to find a max farm hold, working on that grip strength. We're going to have sled push for that power day, and then your quad. So that's where we have the 2-minute on an erg, 2-minute rest, 2-minute erg, 2-minute rest, 4 times. So that's going to be that next base day focus.
What's your favorite one out of all those?
I'm going to have to say it's between hip thrust and sled push is my favorite.
Yeah, I think the sled push for me, for sure.
I know that you favor like upper body a
I
little bit more.
I do usually, but for this phase, the sled push, I just like really enjoy grunt work.
Yeah. I do too. Like you don't really have to think about the sled push.
No. Yeah,
You
you're
just
just trying to like go for a whole minute, you know?
Yeah.
But I do enjoy a strict press, although my favorite is the bench press, which we just did yesterday. So we'll have to wait for the next
So which one?
So sad.
I know. Very
So
sad.
out of these, you said your favorites. For me, it's strict press because I'm strong AF upper body. So
Of course, you would.
it just
you would say
it
that.
just is what it is. It just is what it is. All right. So if you want a little sneak peek here, Ashton, if you can get the build one up there, or just throw one up there and then tell me which one you see first, and we will talk about some of the movements that you all are going to see.
I'm excited about this phase.
Yes.
Side note.
I'm
What-
really excited about it.
What are you like? Name a movement before we get this pulled up that you're most excited about. Build one.
Actually, it's the one that's up right now, which
Okay.
will be lunges or split squats. Sorry,
Barbell.
barbell. Yeah,
Bringing back the barbell split
the barbell split squats, which you all just love so
I can
much.
just hear you all groaning right
And-
now at home.
And the thing about the barbell split squats was, I mentioned to you all, this was probably a year ago. We haven't done these probably in a year. I mentioned just passively, I was like, what if we did these front rack split squats?
So that's Josh's fault.
And you all were kind of like, oh, yeah, that sounds like the most amazing thing that you ever thought of, Josh. And I was like, great, like that's what we're going to do. So you get to do front rack split squats. We'll start with the back rack over the first few weeks.
That front rack ready.
Yeah, get that.
Start
working on that
stretching.
front
Those
rack.
elbows up.
So stretching every day. Get your elbows up. So you'll have the split squats there. You're going to have hip thrusts. You're going to be working through cluster sets, which just a deep dive on that. So the cluster is the one that's like 6.6. The point indicates a rest. The point doesn't just have like an automatically tied rest to it. So if you see a point, that doesn't just automatically mean 5 seconds. The point is programmed intentionally for what we're supposed to get out of it. So the one that we're looking at here is a 10-second rest. So the idea here is you're going to do your first 3 sets are 12 hip thrusts, and then you move to a 6.6, which is still 12 reps, but ideally you should be able to do a little bit more weight on that 6.6 because you're getting a rest. The next thing, was there anything else on the build 1? We can get the build 2 pulled up. The build 2, that's everyone's favorite day. It's bench press and strict press alternating. Well, they'll hate the strict press day, and then they'll love the bench press day.
So I'll still get my bench press. I'll still get it in there.
And then power cleans, we are starting with higher reps, and these are going to be like unbroken repetitions without dropping the bar. And then those go all the way down, and those actually will end with clusters. And the very last day before, I can't remember if it falls on the day, the week of base day, or if it falls before, but you will actually get to do like a 1 rep max, establish a 1 rep max clean, which I feel like we do that once or twice a year. So this phase is when you'll get to do that. Moving along to power 1. Do one of y'all want to do this one?
Yeah. So power 1 is like more of your upper body power day. We have a focus on rotation. So you're going to have some like variations of like your Pallof presses, and we're going to do some like plate hip to halos, if you remember those. If you could pull that back. And then we're going to, on the bench, have some seated curls, some single arm rows. So really just working on that unilateral strength on power 1.
I love on power 1, I love the top to top. It just burns so good.
I agree.
Anything else on that one? Love the rotational stuff. Power 2. Do you want to do the power 2?
Sure.
I feel like this is a fun day.
Yeah. Power 2, the focus, again, for the base day is going to be the sled. So working up in time to sled push, and pretty much trying to get moving in all kinds of different directions unilaterally on a single leg, and also focusing on power for that. So we're going to be doing some single leg bounding, some drop lunges, which will be really fun this phase. And I think that's it. Y'all have anything else to add on
This
that?
is one of the days I'm most excited about.
I think
just
everyone
'cause-
loves this lower power.
It just
Yeah.
feels so good. It's so tiring.
The movements in this one, it's going to like really allow you guys to just hone in on like jumping technique.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is so important. Like the breaking, like knowing how to bound. This is a discussion that we've had a lot of times. And it's one of the things that I said to you, April, was, you're jumping. Yeah, your numbers are impressive. What's impressive is that you can even do a broad jump without hurting yourself. And it shouldn't be impressive. It should just be, people should just be able to
normal.
do that. But there's so many people at all ages, my age, there's people that are 35. I'm 35. There's people that's 35, I think. And if they jump, they will hurt themselves.
We just stop moving. Like we stop doing, like as a kid, you do all that stuff, even like bear crawls or like,
Yeah.
occasionally we'll do like throw a handstand or go upside down or something. And we just stop moving in these different ways. And then it feels uncomfortable.
If you don't move it, you lose it.
I was about to say it. Somebody had to.
I could feel it.
Somebody had to. Grind 1. Love a push-up, pull-up day.
I love an offset push up because of the deficit too.
It makes it tough.
Yeah.
For sure. And then you like find out one side's like actually doing all the work when
Yeah.
you do it
Yeah.
regular.
But you're actually like all fucked up
Lots
on
of
one side.
lots of shoulder health movements in this
Yes.
day too.
So you'll
great.
have the offset push-ups, which is going to be with a 25 or 45 pound plate, and you'll have one hand on one hand on the ground. The clocks, the plank clocks are going to be really interesting. That's like where you're in a plank position and you're doing like a single arm tap, like you're going around a clock. That will feel awesome. The pull-ups, I love the idea that we do with the pull-ups throughout the year. That's like adding these tempos in. So we have like 5 pull-ups and then the 1 second pause there, and then 5 pull-ups that next week and 3 second pause, and then you can already see how that's going to go. I remember a year or two ago we were having our programming meeting and we did this. If you were here, you probably remember it. And this was my idea, but we'll bring it back, and I'll wear that with pride. I said, what will it feel like? Volume of pull-ups is cool, like doing a lot of them, but what does a 1 minute pull-up feel like? And so we started going through these like long pull-ups where you would do like 1 or 2 pull-ups throughout the whole set, but it was like a 60-second pull-up. And the same thing carries with like a push-up. Like a 60-second push-up is a damn hard push-up.
I have some of my clients doing
great
it
for your
as
tendons.
slow as you can down on a push-up, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what is this?" And I just always think of the calisthenics guys that are like on the sidewalk in Miami
They're just chilling.
that do
Yeah.
like they'll do like air squat,
Yeah.
like 2 minutes down, like as slow
2
as you
minutes
can.
down,
Like
2
it's
minute
just
pause, 2 minutes up, and they will do that. So it's
It's
like
insane.
2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and they'll be like, we're going to do that for 22 minutes or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
so
There was
good.
one guy that was doing it for an hour. Like he was just like, that's the whole workout.
That's psycho behavior.
Those-
Make their push up stronger though.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
So
Oh
good.
yeah. And then the prone I, Y, T, and A. Anything else to add on that you see here that, okay. And then grind 2. So, Turkish get down.
I told my class the other day, I was like, y'all are about to see a bunch of Turkish get downs. And they kind of like side eyed me as they were doing it for 2 minutes.
So
That's great.
the Turkish get up and Turkish get down is a super important movement. It's getting up and down off the ground.
It's also butchered a lot.
Yes, and that is why we're leaning into it all the way this phase. And we're adding tempos in different positions. We're adding pauses in a position. Then you're going to have to slow down as you transition from like the kneeling position into the side plank. And then you're going to have to hold that position.
And you ain't going to have any weight.
And you're not going to be
No
holding no
weight.
weight. You're going to do it right first. Because that's the rule. That's the rule. Reverse plank to L sit. Go to Abby's page. She has a very terrific version of that is different than the version
It's
that
the correct
I
version.
did. It's the correct version. I was doing the Miami Beach calisthenics version that is practically impossible. And then we bring back the balance pads, which we always love. Balance pad.
We always love balancing.
Yes, we love balancing. All right. And then, so I think that's it. That covers everything. If you all don't have anything else in the comment section, we will see you all this week.